All right, we're going to move into our meditation by singing Deliver Me. So I invite you to relax as we move into this. Give me this day my daily bread. Forgive me all my trespasses. Lead me not into dismay, but let me pray upon the highest hill. Let me know the beauty of thy will. From it, let me not stray, but deliver me from negativity. Baptize me with your majesty. Christen me with the love that is free. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. When I realize that we are one, and only with these eyes do I see, and only with these eyes do I see. And as we move deeper into this time of conscious contact with the Lord of our being, I invite you to become more aware of your breath, breathing deeply into your belly, filling yourself up with the gift of life, exhaling completely, allowing the body to relax and the mind follows. And just take another moment to scan your body and notice if there's anywhere where you're feeling any tension or stress or pain or discomfort, and just kind of breathe into that area. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears, wiggle your fingers and toes, and relax into the stillness of this peaceful moment. And with breath awareness and body awareness, we bring our minds and hearts into the awareness of God, into the awareness of possibility, into the awareness of peace and joy and abundance and all the good things of God. And as we do that, we also take another deep breath to let go of anything and everything that's not serving our highest and best this morning, anything that we may be carrying with us, any fear or regret or resentment or anger, and just kind of letting it go at this time, handing it over to God, bringing us back into this place of peace, open and receptive, responsive, and expressive of the love of God. This morning we focus on compassion. And we know that to be compassionate, we first have to have that compassion for ourselves. So we open our hearts to allow the compassion of God to fill us from the inside out. To let go of any shame or guilt that we may be carrying for the places in life where we've come up short. And instead of judging ourselves, we become compassionate with ourselves, filling ourselves with self-compassion, allowing ourselves to be free of the past, to be in this present moment where all the energy of God is available to us, all that love, all that empathy, all that compassion, right here, right now. I think of the words that Jesus heard as he came up out of the water from the baptism. Here is my beloved child of God, with whom I am well pleased. And as that was true for Jesus, it is true for each and every one of us. Being created in the image and likeness of God, God is well pleased with each of you. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, your wholeness and your perfection is here now. You are a beloved child of God with whom God is well pleased. And these words allow us to be more compassionate with ourselves. And from this place of being filled up with self-empathy and self-compassion, we bring others into our minds and hearts. And I invite you to bring a loved one into your awareness. And from your heart, fill their heart with compassion and empathy. Affirm their well-being, their peace, their joy. Especially someone you know who may be struggling right now. Send them that compassion that is of God through you to them. And seeing them lifted up. And take another moment to bring someone else to your mind, sending them your compassion and love. And now, the challenging part, to bring someone who you might consider an enemy, someone who you are challenged by, and send them your love and compassion and empathy, knowing that their struggles are real, but God's love is greater. And allow that blessing, that compassion to go out around the universe and back to you. And again, as we rest in the quiet, affirming, I am a beloved child of God with whom God is well pleased, as we meditate and pray in the silence. I am a beloved child of God with whom God is well pleased. And with that truth, we take a deeper breath and slowly begin to bring our awareness back to this time and place, having touched the stillness even for this brief moment, to feel that transformation, to feel the truth of our being as we sing the last two verses of Deliver Me. Thy word is heard from mountains high, in valleys low, through summer skies, in lands where there is peace. Namaste, Sat Nam, Vaheguru Jai Sitaram. And I behold the Christ in you. From Catholic saints to Hindu names, Buddhist chants and refrains, as all the paths our feet walk to be free. Namaste, Sat Nam, Vaheguru Jai Sitaram. And I behold the Christ in you. I behold the Christ in you. I behold the Christ in you. Go ahead, Jay.
I decided to give you this.
Really?
Yep.
You know, whoever sits here gets to make all the decisions.
Yeah. And I'm always making decisions. But you make perfect decisions. So sit right down and start making them.
Wow, I'm honored. This feels good.
Jude, guess what? What? I just got my new credit card account. Time to go shopping.
Really? I thought you and your husband were trying to pay off some debt.
Well, yes, money is a little tight, but we don't have to tell him. Do you want to go?
No.
No?
No, why not?
Well, how about I don't know. Let me check my schedule. And let me see, let me check my schedule and get back to you, okay?
Okay, let's give me a call.
Okay.
Jude, what's going on?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I'm kind of one cheek in it here. Look, I want to make sure we're on the same page. You want me to sit here, right?
Of course.
Well, whoever sits here gets to make the decisions.
Right?
Well, so what's the problem?
Well, there's not a problem, really. I lost my head for a second. Here, have a seat. Come on, sit down.
As long as you're sure.
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay, let's start over.
Okay.
Jude, I noticed that you've been losing your temper a lot.
Right.
So,
look, God, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
you do?
Yeah, but you don't know the whole situation.
Well, all I'm saying is that your attitude is a decision.
Yeah, but I have a lot going on right now.
I know you're under a lot of pressure.
Pressure? Gee, pressure? You don't even know pressure.
Jude, this isn't working.
I know, but I didn't think it was going to be so hard. Here, take it.
No, I'm not going to take it. You have to give it to me.
Here.
Judith, make a choice.
I can't.
You just did. I think that was the beginning of the end of our marriage. That was called the God Stool conversation. We renamed it the God Stool Smackdown. So today I wanted to share about compassionate communication. And compassionate communication is a process that connects us deeply to our own internal experiences and to the deepest part of others. And it's an opportunity to move from a place of judgment to a place of understanding. And, communication is such an important piece of our lives, and especially our relationships. When we communicate well, we feel heard and things are good. And when we don't communicate well, we're not heard, and it's a little different, a little rougher waters when we're not communicating well. So this idea of compassionate communication it's actually something you can't make someone else do. It's something that you do internally. And when you come from that place of compassion within yourself, your life changes, your world changes, and this is a tool that definitely does help change the world. Because what happens when we're more compassionate with ourselves, then we become more compassionate with others. I was blessed, 15 years ago when we were in Albuquerque, to do a 9-day intensive with Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who created this thing called nonviolent communication, which is also called compassionate communication. Got to sit at his feet with 50 people from around the world to practice, to be in this intensive, immersed in nonviolent communication. And it was very powerful, and it's also not easy, and that's why it was this 9-day immersion, because you really have to get into the practice of it, of learning how to do this practice, how to do more compassionate communication. Now, it's easy just to think that, yes, I can be compassionate with this person and, that's all it takes. But it's much more than that. It starts with ourselves. It starts with the idea of having empathy for ourselves and being compassionate with ourselves. Because you can't give it to another person unless you have that. So that's a big step, right? Because how many of us carry a lot of baggage with us of things that may have been put on us by others, maybe well-meaning people, but maybe they said things like, well, you'll never be good at that. Or you heard often, what's wrong with you? Or these kind of things that kind of got stuck somewhere in there, and then we show up to try to do something and we feel less than. But the truth is, we're created with all the good stuff of God. I just love our teaching that we are created in the image and likeness of God, and it's good. The energy is good. Who we are is good. And yet we still need to work through and learn how to do life better. It can be difficult. One of the things that Marshall Rosenberg taught, and he made his transition a few years ago. Before he did, he was given the Light of God Expressing Award by Unity for the work that he's done in the world with his teachings of nonviolent communication. But he used these two characters to talk about how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to others. And the one character is the jackal. And the jackal is the one who's quick to blame others, offers critiques to self and others, and evaluates the situation from their own point of view and demands what they think others want. They think they know what other people want. And it's kind of a confrontational way of being. And you're in your jackal mode when internally you're blaming and criticizing yourself, and externally you're blaming and criticizing others. And then the other animal that he uses is the giraffe. And the giraffe is a wonderful animal because it's got the biggest heart of any land animal, and it's got the longest neck, so it has a really good perspective of the world and things. And so it observes the situation without judgment. It connects to others through the language of that big heart. It's really good about understanding feelings, and makes requests for enriching actions. Now, those last two things may be characteristics that he gave the giraffe. I don't know how giraffes feel, and I've never heard one make a request for enriching actions, but these are the characteristics that we use. So we know that when we're coming from that giraffe place, when internally we sense our own feelings and needs, and externally we sense others' feelings and needs. So it's a really fun exercise, and nonviolent communication has been used in schools and peace summits and all kinds of things around the world. Marshall Rosenberg had been in the Middle East with Israelis on one side and Palestinians on the other, and finding what we find out in compassionate communication, in that everybody has unmet needs. And when those unmet needs aren't met, that's where violence occurs, whether it's through language or war. So what are those needs that we all have? The basic one is love, right? We all need to be loved. We all need an outlet for our love. We all need to be seen. We all need to be valued. And when we understand that when those needs aren't being met, that people act out. So in compassionate communication, instead of judging a person for their behavior, we ask the question, what's their unmet need? What are they really needing? And just that action alone can change a relationship or change a situation. So I know that when I'm acting out, I'm feeling upset and I'm not getting some needs met. And to have somebody be compassionate to ask me, what's going on? Instead of, you're acting like a jerk. It's a whole different conversation. And the truth is what A Course in Miracles teaches us, that everything in life, everything we do is either an act of love or a call for love. And I love that idea that, when we see people acting out or when we're acting out, it's actually a call for love, that we're missing something. We're missing a connection. We're missing some piece in our lives that's not there. And again, that's why the only way this works is when we start with ourselves, when we give ourselves that compassion and that empathy that we need. Self-compassion is defined as being kind and understanding towards oneself in instances of pain or failure, rather than being harshly self-critical, perceiving one's experience as part of the larger human experience, rather than seeing them as isolating and holding painful thoughts and feelings in mindful awareness, rather than over-identifying with them. So when you're feeling in that place where you need some compassion, I know when I'm there, I feel isolated. I feel like it's just me, but it's just part of the human condition. It's just so I shift that judgment and blame of myself to a place of, I just need some compassion, and some self-compassion is a much better tool for my healing than self-judgment. Jack Kornfield, I share often, is one of my favorite teachers, and he teaches us that when we are filled with self-empathy and self-compassion, we can go to the core of our pain. We can go to the core of our issues instead of just brushing them off. And that's what we do often, and we find ways to not feel things through addictive behaviors and things like that. So we want to be able to sit in the middle of our pain, in the middle of our challenges, the middle of our crises. And when we're there, when we're willing to go that deep into it, we find the blessing, and things begin to dissolve and change. And when that happens, we show up in the world in a whole new, different place. It also has a lot to do with our faith. What kind of God do you believe in? I know here in Unity, our foundation is that God is good. So we believe in the God of good no matter what, rather than the God of one false move. You know that guy? When we make one mistake and we think that that's it. So when we add that faith element to our compassion, we find that we are more compassionate with ourselves, and more, our relationships improve and the world improves. The teaching is that Jesus launched his ministry after his 40 days in the wilderness and went to the river to be baptized by John the Baptist. And when Jesus was baptized and he came up out of the water, he heard the words, "This is my beloved Son with whom I am well pleased." It was like a dove descending on him. And I think about that as that moment where Jesus really stepped into his power and his truth as a teacher. And just those words, as I said in the meditation, if it was true for Jesus, it's true for each and every one of us. Those loving, supportive, compassionate words. You are my beloved child with whom I am well pleased. And what that does for your being, what that does for your psyche, what that does for you as you know this truth. And then Jesus carried that forward. You know, I'm thinking about when Jesus appeared to the disciples and they were out fishing. And that was when Jesus said to cast your net on the right side of the boat because they weren't catching any fish, and they caught so much fish that they had trouble hauling it into the shore. And the metaphysics of that is when we listen to the Christ within, we are prospered, we are blessed. And those fish represent those divine ideas that prosper us. And later on in that conversation, Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Of course I love you, Jesus. I love you more than anyone." And Jesus says, "Well, feed my lambs." And Jesus asks again, "Do you love me, Peter?" And Peter says, "Yes, I love you, Lord." And Jesus says, "Care for my sheep." And Jesus asks one more time, "Do you love me, Peter?" And Peter says, "Yes, Lord, I love you." And Jesus says, "Feed my sheep." So there's another story that precedes that where Peter betrayed Jesus 3 times. So I think it's this compassion that Jesus carried to transform that energy from somebody who may have thought he was done wrong to some real compassion and empathy to change that energy to love. And so we get feed my lambs, care for my sheep, feed my sheep. And, you know, I'm also a big fan of Ram Dass, and I read a lot of Ram Dass, and, you know, his foundation is called Love, Serve, and Remember. And he got that from his guru who, when he asked, you know, what do I do in the world? How do I make this place a better? And Neem Karoli Baba, his guru, said, feed people, serve people, love people, remember God. So I love to see these things coming together, that in truth, there's no new ideas. You know, as we move into this place of service and love and caring for one another, we transform our lives and the world. So it starts with empathy, self-empathy and self-compassion. There were a lot of stories that came out of South Africa after apartheid. And you may have heard this story before, but it's a wonderful teaching story of compassion, one of the greatest stories I've ever heard. And what happened was, during the Truth and Reconciliation process, people were working to heal the country, to heal each other. And there was a situation where a woman's son and husband had both been killed by this same man. And I'm not going to go over the details of the death, but you can imagine how bad it was. And so they asked the woman what she wanted out of this situation. And she said, well, I want 3 things. I want first to be taken to the place where my husband's body was burned so I can gather up some of the dust and give him a proper burial. My husband and son were my only family. She said, I want secondly for Mr. Vanderberg to become my son. I would like for him to come twice a month to the ghetto and spend a day with me so that I can pour out on him whatever love I still have. Imagine. Imagine that she didn't say, so you can get him to feel the crushing poverty that I live in. She didn't say, I want you to feel the way I feel having lost my son and my husband. She didn't say, I want you to feel every disturbing, disrupting eye scrutinizing him as a minority in the community. She said, I want to be able to pour whatever love I have out to him. This is one of the things they say about grief, that grief is having all this love, but nowhere to put it. And so she's saying, I want to heal. I want to heal my pain. I want to heal your pain. And I want you to come replace my family so I have a place to put my love. To me, that is an incredible miracle, to have that kind of heart that big, to be able to forgive that deeply, and to be able to share that much compassion. So I was going to get the clicker from you, which I forgot, but if you can advance. So there's some things that how we can practice more compassionate communication. If you go to the next slide. So one is to spend some time each day quietly reflecting on how we would like to relate to others and ourselves. So do you think about that when you get up before you go out the door in the morning? How do I want to show up today with myself and others? And knowing you all, I know that is, you want to show up in a compassionate way. You want to show up and have a harmonious experience with others in the world, right? And be more creative and have more fun and more joy. Number 2, remember that all human beings have the same needs. We all need to be loved. We all need an outlet for that love. And we all need to be seen and appreciated, right? So when you see people acting out, you can ask that question, and I wonder what their unmet needs are. Number 3, check our intention to see if we are as interested in others getting their needs met as our own. That's that heart that woman had. It wasn't just about her needs, but imagine the healing that man would have receiving that love. It might have been a hard thing to receive that kind of love. But to make sure it's not just about our intentions, but others as well. Number 4, instead of saying what we don't want someone to do, say what we do want the person to do. So if your 5-year-old is jumping on the bed, you may say, we could go downstairs and jump on the trampoline. So it's a redirection of not focusing so much on what you don't want, but what do you want, which again takes a lot of work sometimes. Number 5, before agreeing or disagreeing with anyone's opinion, try to tune in to what the person is feeling and needing. We don't always have to talk. Another foundation of compassionate communication is asking the 3 questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Sometimes not saying something can be the most powerful thing we can do, is to just be quiet and let people find their own solution. It's a big piece. And if you'll go to the next slide. So these are things we can practice as we continue on this journey of original living and authentic being. And the authenticity piece of this, for me, really starts with the self-compassion and the self-empathy. Can I start there? Can I connect with my own, with what's going on with me, and acknowledge maybe I am feeling a little broken. Maybe I am feeling a little lonely. Maybe I am feeling a little upset about what's going on in the world, or things like that, and stopping and really paying attention to your own self and where you are, connecting with that Christ consciousness, connecting with that divine self within you, giving yourself all the love that you need to go forward from that place of fullness, not from a place of emptiness or brokenness. I was just thinking of a quote from Jimi Hendrix. What's he say? Experience talks and wisdom listens, or knowledge talks and wisdom listens. And so we really have to find that quiet place to really listen to ourselves, to find out what those needs are, and to go from there in a more present and aware way through our lives. So let's take a moment to know this inwardly. So as we breathe into our hearts, we open our hearts with all the love of God, allowing all the love to come in to every nook and cranny of our hearts, illuminating the love that is possible, giving thanks, and praying this in the name and nature of the indwelling Christ presence. And so it is. Amen.